What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm finally back with the much long-awaited test results for my E2 sensitive test during this MENT cycle is what I've been calling it. Obviously, I've been on a lot of compounds, but the thing that has been plaguing me for weeks now is that when I started the MENT, relatively soon after, I began experiencing what I thought was all of the signs and symptoms of crashed estrogen. As I've detailed in many videos, my D game was totally and completely broken, for worse than it's ever been and for longer than it's ever been. Which is going to be important when we get to looking at these numbers. Last night, man, I was going through it. I was noticing last night was beginning to seriously notice the signs of rising progesterone. I had lumps, estrogen. I had lumps behind my nipples. I had, I expressed to you guys in the previous videos that I'd started with, the emotionality, and then my D game came back. I could feel my wife again. All of the familiar signs and symptoms that my E2 was climbing. So the blood work that I gave like on Monday. So today is Sunday, and I just got the results back. So unfortunately, the results were very, very delayed, which makes it a lot harder to know where I'm at today, although I think in practice that's not going to matter. So when I donated blood, to Cavalcer's credit, when I donated blood, I was not having a lot of the signs of high E2. My D game was still very broken. I was not experiencing any of the emotionality, any of the connectedness with my wife. Basically, as far as I could tell from the way my body felt, I would have guessed that my estrogen was still low to low normal. The result that I got has been as confusing as it is enlightening. So my E2 level, as checked last Monday, came back at 69 picograms per milliliter, which is slightly above the top end of the reference range. So the reference range for a man is, it's well above, excuse me. On this particular sensitive test, the reference range for a man is 29 picograms per milliliter. So I was just a little bit more than twice the top end of the reference range, which now, in fact, in looking at that, changed my opinion to some degree. So at first glance, I was like, oh my God, this is great. I'm not a genetic freak. Cavalcer was right. He accurately predicted that what I was experiencing were signs of low estrogen. I am willing to continue to hold that open as an option. The only reason that I'm not just 100% wholeheartedly falling in and saying, yes, obviously that's what's going on, is because of the fact that when this blood work was pulled, I had only taken 1 milligram of Arimidex in the preceding 9 days. In the preceding 9 days, having at least 400 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone in my system, I had only taken 1 milligram of Arimidex. Normally during that period of time, to keep my estrogen on the high end of normal, I would have needed at least 3.5 milligrams of Arimidex. So the fact that my E2 was twice the top end of the reference range, so that if we say that I would normally be keeping it on this scale somewhere up around 25 and it's 69, but I admittedly haven't been taking any Arimidex for an extended period of time, unfortunately to me that's not conclusive. To me it is very possible that my E2 would rise that rapidly purely from the test, because obviously keep in mind, all we're looking at here is testosterone. The MENT that I'm taking is not detectable on this test. The MENT aromatizes into 7-alpha-methylestradiol. So this test does not pick it up. So whatever this number is, in theory, the estrogenic activity, or the total volume of bindable estrogens in my body is actually higher. 7-alpha methyl estradiol is 7-alpha-methyl E2, and it will bind, as far as I know, I can't tell you this for certain, this could be part of the problem. As far as I know, it will bind to the estrogen receptor and activate it. I know for a fact that 17-alpha-methyl estradiol will bind to the estrogen receptor and activate it, because that is what D-bol converts to. And I have taken D-bol on more than one occasion and had extreme amounts of estrogenic activity. So I think that it's still likely that this high E2, I think it's very likely that I was high. I wish the numbers had come back at a different point in the. I wish I had gotten numbers pulled when I was still administering the Arimidex, and then we would know for sure. So we are going to find out for sure, because what I'm going to do is return to the state of normal that I was previously in. So when I started the MENT, I was taking 500 milligrams of Test C per week, and that along with Deca, which does some aromatizing, excuse me, and that was requiring 3.5 milligrams of Arimidex to keep me in what I thought was the sweet spot. Maybe we'll find out that I was high then too, but I was not symptomatic, and I certainly didn't have broke D-game. So every one of my physiological functions was firing on all cylinders at 500 milligrams of Test C and 3.5 to 4 milligrams of 8X per week. So I'm going to return to those values. I took the second I saw this blood work last night, I immediately dosed one milligram of Arimidex, because you got to understand, this blood work is now 6 days old. And during the course of the past 6 days, where it was already twice the top end of the reference range, I jacked up my testosterone dose and have been taking more HCG because I was convinced that I was low. So I was trying to get as much aromatization going as possible, as fast as possible. So there's really no telling how high my estrogen, my regular E2 is, not even counting the methyl estradiol that should be in my system, assuming that this is MENT, and I don't have any reason necessarily to believe that it's not, other than it's just I don't have any experience with this brand. So definitively, what was low is Prolactin. And I take cabergoline, which is what caused the Prolactin crash. When I saw the Prolactin result that came back about 5 days ago now, I immediately stopped dosing the cabergoline. And my D-game symptoms have continued to improve since dropping the cabergoline. So, to be fair, it seems like it is more likely that the D-game problem, at least, which was what was causing me the most issues, was caused by very crashed Prolactin and possibly not E2 at all, which would go a long way to explaining why I wasn't having the typical high E2 symptoms. So one of the reasons that high E2 can get me into so much trouble is because, like, in this range where it is now, the 69 picograms per milliliter, I would normally not be having D-game problems at all. In fact, I would normally be having the opposite. I would be having raging libido. And I was not experiencing raging libido before, and so it was nearly impossible for me to believe that it was high prolactin. I was also not retaining any water. I was not having any gyno. I was having zero symptoms of high estrogen. How can that be? How is it possible that I can have a total estrogen level twice the top end of the reference range and have zero physiological symptoms? Well, I did a lot of thinking about this last night, and I talked to Convulsor quite a bit. And again, this is purely anecdotal. I mean, this is speculation. But one of the things that I've been finding in my community is a lot of guys come to me. I keep telling everybody, go get your estrogen checked, it's probably high. Go get your estrogen checked, it's probably high. And people are like, no, I don't have any symptoms. I don't have any gyno. I don't have any water retention. I don't have any bloat. They go check their estrogen levels, come back and report it's twice the top end of the reference range. One of the things, this is not across the board, but one of the things that I have noticed is that a lot of these guys who are coming back with unusually high estrogen levels and no real symptoms are on a lot of other compounds that could possibly be offsetting the symptoms. So like Convulsor was saying to me, I've been taking 400 milligrams of Masteron. Well, Masteron's designed for breast cancer. It's designed to target, it's a selective estrogen receptor modulator. It's designed to target, your gyno, basically, and to block estrogen from binding to that receptor. So if I was taking a sufficient amount of Masteron, 400 milligrams being at or above the clinical dose for a woman who is experiencing ER-positive breast cancer, then you could make the case that the reason I didn't have gyno or that the gyno was kind of weird, like I kept saying, like, it'll feel a little puffy, then it'll go away. It'll feel a little puffy for a part of the day, then it seems totally normal. This very well could have been due to the Masteron serum effect in my body. On top of that, Masteron is a drying compound. I was taking Proviron, which is a very drying compound. I've got a couple of DHT derivatives in the mix that maybe, possibly, again, I'm just speculating. It's hard for me to believe. Maybe, possibly, the Masteron, the 400 milligrams of Masteron and 50 milligrams of Proviron per day were enough to offset what should have been substantial water bloat from having estrogen twice the top end of the reference range. Now, again, the reason I'm so skeptical of all this is because this just never happened to me in practice, which continues to make me believe that on some level the MENT is doing something unordinary in my body. Typically speaking, when my estrogen goes up, the last time I had this happen is when I got T-ball that turned out to be D-ball. My E2 spiked to over twice the top end of the reference range. I immediately got gyno. I gained 6 pounds of water weight and I started vomiting. I have lost 4 pounds of body weight in the past 3 or 4 days. I woke up this morning at 197, 198. I have been at 198. 209.8. I'm sorry. I woke up this morning at 209.8, and I have been pretty consistently at 211 in the morning, post urination, clean out, all that. I've been sitting at 211. So I haven't gone to the bathroom today, so I'm really down about 3 pounds. So we have a situation where, on paper, 5 days ago, I had an E2 level that was double the top end of the reference range, with some amount of 7-methyl estradiol also going on in the system, and yet I had no gyno, no water retention, I wasn't crying, and I was massively disconnected from my wife. This is a remarkable set of circumstances that unfortunately this blood work does nothing to explain. Could the Masteron explain the lack of nipple sensitivity? Yes. Could the combination of Masteron and Proviron explain the lack of water retention? Maybe. I'm on Deca. I'm on 500 milligrams of test and 300 milligrams of Deca, and I don't have any. I don't look like a water balloon with high E2. I mean, am I the only person that finds that hard to believe? But again, Tren is a drying compound. Proviron is a drying compound. Masteron is a drying compound. Maybe what I keep calling this unicorn effect has been some kind of cyclical turnover of body water. To be fair, I do have to admit that I also lowered my MK677 dose because I've had no appetite, and so I've been trying to re-kickstart my diet. Last night, in the middle of the night, I drank a 20-gram protein water and had 3 honey buns. That's the best I've eaten in a week. And coincidentally, I took an aromatase inhibitor last night. I woke up this morning fucking lit. I have been going off on this dude on Discord that I've been holding back on for a very long time. He's a client of mine, and I tend to give people who trust me with their money a little bit of fucking rope, and honestly, it was a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. I've had very strong opinions about this guy from fucking day one, and I woke up this morning in just basically a fit of fucking rage. Coincidentally, after I took Arimidex. So this is what has transpired over the last 24 hours and what has been going on thus far. I continue to not understand how any of these things could be happening. They don't seem to make sense to me in practice, but they are making sense on paper, and that is what Kowalcer was basing his opinions on. Is what does the medical science tell us? Looking at the pharmacodynamics of these drugs, he predicted that I should have had high E2, and I did. And unless you want to argue that it was high normal, I mean, and then it spiked up in the 6 days or 9 days, whatever, without E2. I mean, without Arimidex. That's very possible. But in order for me to have been feeling the symptoms prior to that, I would have had to have a pretty sizable jump. I would have had to have gone from crashed estrogen to normal estrogen to high estrogen by the time I took the test. So you would think if my estrogen was crashed, 9 days prior, 6 days prior to taking the test, and then it was high the day I took the test, why was I not recovering well before this last week when coincidentally I took the cabergoline out of the mix? So I can tell you that one of the main side effects of crashing your prolactin is an inability to finish. So not last night, but the night before, it was very hard for me to finish. And then last night, it was substantially easier. And so this again is another sign of progression where it's very possible that the D-gain problem was primarily prolactin induced, which is really unfortunate because it went a long way to masking apparently some very seriously high E2 situations. If all of this is true, I feel extremely fortunate to not have been in the toilet puking. It is possible that the reason my appetite has been so bad for the past 3 days is because my estrogen was rising to the point that I was getting ready to be in the toilet. And last night, having a sudden rebound of appetite right after following an Adex dose is inspiring to me. Now, I think Cavalcer tries to tell me that Adex doesn't work that fast. And again, I mean, maybe it doesn't. Maybe in my body, it seems to work very quickly. I don't know if that's the case. I'm also trying to wrap my head around the way this aromatase works in general, pursuant to my plans on intentionally crashing it and controlling it with exogenous estrogen. But I'm going to save that for an entire video because somebody on our Discord last night asked Cavalcer what his opinion was of my proposed crashed E2 cycle, and he wrote a lengthy response that I think I'm going to dedicate an entire video to, walk you through what he is saying should be the case on paper, and then what my stupid ass bro science anecdotal personal user experience has been, and maybe we can fucking figure out what's really going on, because some of the things I feel like don't really add, some of the things on paper don't add up to practice. And so there could be a lot of experimentation going on in the days and weeks to follow. What is definitely going to be going on is I'm going to return my system to a baseline so that we can for once and all put this to bed. So I was taking 3.5 milligrams of Adex at 500 milligrams of tescipionate. I'm going to go back. I'm basically at 500 milligrams of Tescip right now, slightly higher. I bumped it up to 600, but it'll be easy to bring that back down. So we're going to pin 600 milligrams of 500 milligrams of Tesc, and I'm going to take 3.5 to 4 milligrams of Adex per week and leave the MENT dosage alone, and we're going to sit on this for a minute. If the MENT crashed my estrogen before, it will crash it again on these same dosages. If it did not crash it before, it will not crash it again, and the horrific Decade problem will not come back. Now, that is the other fucking skeleton in the closet, or the elephant in the room, which is that I am now on day 3 or 4 of no cabergoline at all, and I definitely need some. So I'm going to have to pay attention and try to deduce when my prolactin levels start to rise so that I can redose some amount of Caber to make sure that I don't go into the depths of abysmal depression and get back into a Decade situation on the other side. So this is a massive cluster. This again, guys, is why I said I didn't want to do MENT. I didn't want to do EQ. I didn't want to take anything to upset the balance. That my body is really, really prone to all kinds of wild and varying symptoms. I feel things very acutely. I feel them very rapidly. And I know me. And so for a lot of you, you know, maybe this wouldn't have been such an issue, but for me, it is a total clusterfuck. And now I've gotten myself into the middle of a situation where I'm having to try to either through expensive and slow tests, redial in my estrogen and redial in my prolactin and get everything to some kind of semblance of normalcy. And, you know, all for a drug that, you know, just may or may not be worth it. Another thing that I'm kind of coming to a realization with my buddy Kavalser, who again, I respect his medical opinion very much, but admittedly, he and I are approaching this game from two polar opposite camps. He takes very low conservative doses and effectively is trying to intentionally hold his body weight right where it's at. He's not actually trying to grow any substantial amount of tissue on his body. He's been very clear that he's basically just trying to firm up, tone up, cut up what he already has. You know, he's like 6'3" or 6'4", 205. He's not even trying to get to a bodybuilder look. And so when I looked at his recommended cycle for me, I just feel like the doses are all massively underdosed for my intentions. Like I'm trying to get to 230 plus, and I just don't see any way humanly possible with the dosages that he's recommending that I would get there. And so I think that I'm going to have to start blazing my own trail again as far as it goes with my actual androgen load, because I think at a minimum I want to try and find out what happens to my body when I push the total androgen load up over 2 grams. Where I'm currently sitting is 1,800 milligrams of gear. Because of the fact that my E2 is high, I will probably redose the Proviron again today, which has some AI effect, because I need to put that back to baseline. So there's just a lot going on. I started GH last night, very, very small dose, because I get really severe GH lethargy. So I took 1.2 IUs of GH, then I'm probably gonna bump that up to it'll be 2.4, and just slowly rise the GH to see what I can handle and how much lethargy I can avoid. So we got GH going back into the system. I'm gonna try to stabilize my doses until we can figure out how to dial in the ancillaries being E2 and prolactin, and I'm hoping my workouts will get better. So, you know, in the beginning, early on, I was reporting very savage workouts. I set PRs 2 weeks in a row, and then this last week has been lackluster. You know, not bad. Like, I still have crazy endurance to lift as long as I want to lift. But chest day yesterday was I felt a little lagging on the strength, which again is what I would expect when I'm wasting gear, allowing it to be aromatized into estrogen. I feel way more aggressive when my estrogen level is low. I suspect that one of the reasons that I have been as soft as I have been in Discord over the past couple of weeks is because my estrogen has been through the fucking roof. So as that E2 gets knocked down, you guys may suddenly see the return of the Trend Rant series, because I have just been so passive and like, whatever, bro, with my wife, like, whatever you want to do, like seeing shit on Discord that makes me sick to my fucking stomach and ignoring it. I've just been kind of in beta bitch mode again, suspiciously, for the past little while, just not really caring about anything. And that is very indicative, unfortunately, of estrogen that is out of whack. And for me to take 1/8X and wake up this morning as hostile as I was, ooh boy, I gotta warn you, it's probably getting ready to get fucking ugly around here. If I'm right, my E2 is gonna crash again. And then we're gonna have a whole different set of fucking scenarios to cope with. Because if my E2 does crash again, then I will start the experiment of replacing it myself to see how that works and how that feels. Because, like, why not, right? It's just my life that I'm fucking tinkering with. It's just the one and only existence on this planet that I'm playing games with, my one and only family, my one and only wife. Why not just throw caution to the wind and do every stupid fucking thing known to man to see how badly you can fuck your own shit up? That's apparently what I'm committed to do. It's what I said I was going to do. I said I was going to guinea pig my body for the purposes of finding out, you know, how all of these things really work. And so there's going to be a lot of guinea pigging going on in the next few, you know, fucking foreseeable future, I guess. The only other thing I could do, you know, is pull the plug on basically everything. I could go, you know what, abandon program, taper off all these doses, get back to TRT, get stable again with my Arimidex, you know, get back to 200 milligrams a test, you know, clean out the system, reset, and then I could go back to adding one compound at a time and dial it in. So I could drop back to TRT, and then I could put in like Deca, 300 milligrams, dial that in. Then I could put back into Trend, dial that in. You know, that's what I could do, and spend the next fucking year doing it. Instead, I'm probably just gonna take a lot of gear and lift a lot of weights and throw a lot of fits on camera and fucking be unhinged in Discord and hit people with the fucking band hammer and just be fucking totally unglued, because I just don't value this life that much, guys. I keep trying to tell y'all that. A lot of you don't fucking believe me. This last week has been a real eye-opener for me, because I'm realizing that this I that we think we have, I love my wife. I like to go fishing. I like to lift weight. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. I thought I knew a lot of things about who I was, and then my prolactin crashed, my estrogen went through the roof, and I was totally incapable of giving two shits at all about my wife. Last night, with my estrogen level rising again, was the first time in weeks that I started going, hey, who are you talking to on your phone? Noticing like she's been gone for a long time. I wonder what she's doing. All of these like disgusting, paranoid, fucking worrying feelings, the crying in inopportune times, all that nasty shit is coming back as my E2 is continuing to climb. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I miss the other way. I miss the other way. I miss the other way where I was totally disconnected from everything and didn't care about shit. That was fucking so better than what I already feel like last night. I'm hoping that the way I'm feeling is just really high estrogen. And that when I knock it back down into the sweet spot, I'll be back to having all of the goods, none of the bads. I'll be back to trusting and loving my wife and being able to connect to her without being a paranoid psychopath and sitting around worrying about all of the fucking problems going on in the world. I had gotten myself to a really good place, and this little experiment has really fucked it up. And I told you so. I told you so. I did tell you so. I told all of you, stop recommending compounds to me. Stop trying to force EQ down my throat. Stop fucking forcing MENT on me. Stop suggesting Halo, Superdrol, all that. I'm not taking any of this shit. I should have definitively just started raising all my D8. I should have just put Primo in, Master on. I should have been like a gram of test, a gram of Mast, a gram of Primo, 600 milligrams of Nandrolone, 100 milligrams of Tren, and grown to 230 with some MK677. That's what I should have fucking done. I didn't do that. And now I have a whole bunch of MENT to figure out what I'm going to do with. And the only decision is to whether to stick to the fucking program or throw the shit all in the fucking trash. And so as soon as I know what that decision is, you will know. Today is June the 30th at 1:48 p.m. So we'll see when you guys actually get to get this video and this update. And if you're on Discord, duck. Because it's going to be fucking lit today. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.